What's up, everybody? Ron Placone reporting for Status Coup. So, back in, I believe it was the 90s, Visa used to have the slogan, "It's everywhere you want to be." You guys remember that? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But MasterCard did not have that slogan, and apparently for good reason. MasterCard is not everywhere you want to be, especially if you like cannabis. Check this piece out from Reuters. MasterCard moves to ban cannabis purchases on its debit cards. MasterCard has told financial institutions to stop allowing marijuana. Call it cannabis. Don't call it marijuana. That's a bad word. That's a, yeah. I mean, that's the article's word, whatever, but call it cannabis. Or call it pot. That's fine. Anyway, to stop allowing pot transaction on its debit cards, dealing a blow to an industry already on the fringes of the financial system in the United States. Most banks in the country do not service cannabis companies, as pot remains illegal at the federal level despite several states legalizing its medicinal and recreational use. As we were made aware of this matter, we quickly investigated it. In accordance with our policies, we instructed the financial institutions that offer payment services to cannabis merchants and connects them to MasterCard to terminate the activity, a spokesperson for the company said on Wednesday. The spokesperson also added, "and stop dancing." The federal government considers cannabis sales illegal, so these purchases are not allowed in our systems, the spokesperson said. Sunburn Cannabis CEO, that's an awesome name. Sunburn Cannabis. Bro, I forgot sunscreen. Anyway, Sunburn Cannabis CEO Brady Cobb said in a statement that this move is another blow to the state legal cannabis industry and patients consumers who want to access this budding category. Nice play of words there, Brady Cobb. Well played. Pot firm Verano's president, not as cool of a name as Sunburn Cannabis. Verano, I mean, I'm an Italian guy. I do like the Italian name there, but man, Sunburn Cannabis, they're knocking it out of the park in the name department. But anyway, their president, Darren Weiss. Hopefully, Darren has a great pun. Let's continue. We will continue to advocate for cannabis reform in Washington through further dialogue with elected officials and stakeholders to advance conversations supporting the growth of safe, legal cannabis across the U.S. You don't know how high we can reach. Darren didn't have a play on words there, so I made one for him. That was off the top of my head. Earlier this month, Republican Senator John Cornyn said Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's plan to pass a banking bill, a cannabis banking bill, was wishful thinking. The Safe Banking Act is a crucial legislation that would make it easier for the cannabis industry to access banking services. MasterCard's decision was first reported by Bloomberg News. Now, so first of all, the Safe Bank Act, that is an act that would make it easier for cannabis companies to get banking services. Chuck Schumer was very confident. Chuck Schumer was like, "I'm confident this is going to happen." But of course, like it didn't happen. It didn't go on the floor at any point prior to the August recess. It likely will not get a vote this summer, which means it'll probably be pushed to the wayside indefinitely, which is what happens to most policies that actually, help anything. So that's what's going on there. And stuff like this. So first of all, I'm not sure why MasterCard is demonizing pot. I'm not sure, like maybe over the years, too many high people came up to them and they're like, "So what are you the master of exactly?" I don't know. But what I do know is there's a little bit of peculiar timing going on here, because check out this news, guys. Here's a little bit of an interesting connection, if you will. This takes us to Minnesota, and this is some recent news in Minnesota. Recreational cannabis is now legal in Minnesota. Here's what we know. Cannabis is now legal for adults 21 and older to use and possess in Minnesota, making it the 23rd state in the country to legalize cannabis for recreational use. Now, I know you might be thinking, I figured Minnesota did this already. And I did too, to be honest with you. In fact, the only reason I knew it wasn't legal yet was because I performed in Minneapolis in June, and somebody told me that it was not, in fact, legal for recreational purposes. The first dispensary selling pot for recreational use is now open and selling to people on the Red Lake Nation in north central Minnesota. Here's what we know so far. Minnesota lawmakers approved a bill in 2014 that legalized limited use of some forms of medicinal, and now it's recreational. So that's what's going on. When and where will recreational dispensaries be open? Dispensaries can't open until the state figures out a licensing system for the businesses, so they won't open for at least another year. Some estimate in early 2025. And if you're a MasterCard customer, you better either go to the ATM or not use your debit card. I don't know if MasterCard credit cards work. That's sort of unclear. Or just use Visa or something else. Honestly, and I'm not an accountant or anything like that, but this is just my personal opinion. I would avoid using a debit card all the time if you can. I just debit cards are dangerous compared to a credit card. I would just avoid it if you can. I know some people you don't want to have a credit card. I get that. So I'm not like I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving my personal take on it. I personally try to avoid using a debit card under any circumstance. I would rather just use cash or something like that. So you can always just use the good old fashioned greenbacks. But it's really peculiar that MasterCard's doing this at a time where another state allows recreational pot. I'm not calling conspiracy here. I'm just saying it's so interesting that there is still the demonization of the cannabis industry going on in this country. We're still not totally over it. And why? Well, for the same reasons that pot was demonized in the first place. The pharmaceutical industries would rather give prescription for pain pills than see people using pot. Back in the day, pot was commonly enjoyed by black jazz musicians. So, of course, there was a racist undertone in the demonization of pot. And, of course, they didn't want hemp to be a substitute for all the other products they were trying to push on you. So they declared pot a Schedule A drug, which there was no science backing that up ever. There was never any science backing up declaring cannabis a Schedule A drug, which means it has no redeemable qualities whatsoever. That is just objectively completely false. And we know that now, that is just completely false. But they made that ridiculous propaganda movie, Reefer Madness, and a bunch of people were like, yeah, that's if you smoke cannabis, you're gonna run over a child on a bicycle. This tracks. No, it doesn't. Not at all. But it's still going on, and they do it in the form of trying to make it impossible for cannabis companies to get financial services. Now, this is starting to change when you have other powerful people getting into the cannabis industry, i.e., folks like John Boehner. But this is still happening again because all of the powers that be that would rather you use different products. So another interesting component here is the demonization of financial services for cannabis and the demonization of people using crypto or something like that, that is often used in policy to surveil you more and to have more financial surveillance and have more invasions of privacy that are an overreach and are completely unnecessary. You can go to badinternetbills.com. Again, that's badinternetbills.com to learn more about the legislation that's out there and let your lawmakers know we do not want bad policy dictating our digital rights and dictating our privacy. Again, that's badinternetbills.com. And you can check me out on the road, everybody. I am getting ready to leave for Edinburgh. I know there's some Status Coup listeners out in Edinburgh that are going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Please come to my show. There have been Status Coup people at every show so far in 2023. But now we got the international test. That's going to be a much more difficult test, everybody. So please, let's keep the streak going. August 16th through 27th, I will be at the venue 32 Below in the Little Cellar space. Those shows are free. I'm part of the Free Fringe. So if you're going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, I'm one of the shows you don't have to worry about a ticket for. Just show up. My shows are August 16th through 27th at 4 p.m. daily. You can get more information at my website, ronplacone.com. And everybody in Los Angeles, I'll be in San Pedro on October 21st, producing a comedy series right in my own neighborhood. The first headliner is myself, along with Stephanie Blum. That is October 21st. You can get tickets for that show at ronplacone.com. And this is Ron Placone for Status Coup, signing out.